Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. Bypass the Apple upcharge. If you click on that link, click through. You can cancel at any time. This is the place for the most heat information, conversation, consternation, celebration. It's all on Off the Floor, 10 different channels, plus the stage shows. People are going on there all day long about everything. So check it out. This is the place to escape that certain social media platform and just talk Heat and other things related to the Heat and the NBA. It's Off the Floor. Also check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down $5. You get $50 to play right away. Prize Picks is the official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Got 3 NBA games tonight. You can play those, NHL, MLB. Also, they've got an NFL draft special right now where they're giving away lots of free lineup money. And there are all kinds of fun plays that you can do there. So go to Prize Picks, use the code FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Down to Biscayne, kept the flow playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. Check out the last episode that I just did with Brady Hawk. You can follow him at Brady Hawk 305. Of course, Brady and I went through the possibilities, not just now, but in the future, of a Herro, Davion Mitchell backcourt and what that could look like and what would need to be built around it. So I know there's some polarizing opinion on that, which was clear when I posted it on Twitter. So check it out. Again, that's the latest episode with Brady. Also, we'll have coverage coming up. If you're listening to this and you also follow the Dolphins, live show tonight on the YouTube channel, 8:05 p.m. Be right up and through and past the Dolphins pick, where they pick 13th. And also Messi and Company with a live episode tonight at 6 p.m. I don't know if you hear this one before that, but it'll be on the YouTube channel prior to Inter Miami playing one of its biggest matches, actually. They're in Vancouver late tonight. And, of course, the Panthers are Saturday. So check out 5reasonsports.com for that. So plenty of stuff on the network. But let's get to today's topic and today's floor plan, and it's this. Darius Garland has essentially called out Tyler Herro, and we didn't really get to it last night because we did the post-game show before it, but he was asked what the Cavaliers have to do to be successful, and he started it with pick on Tyler Herro, and then he added, not getting into tight spaces, and then he said again, pick on their weak defenders. I'll start here. I don't mind this kind of stuff during a playoff series. Like, that's just my general view. This is what the playoffs are about. It should not be all touchy-feely. These teams don't really have much of a history against each other. We mentioned the Cavs and the Heat. There's a rivalry, but it's like LeBron-related, and it's kind of been squashed for the most part, except maybe at the ownership level. But beyond that, like, there's not really a whole lot there. Max Strus is still friends with a lot of Heat players. There's not, like, a lot of anger between these teams. We haven't really seen any dust-ups in the first 2 games. Both of which, of course, the Heat have lost as they go into Game 3 on Saturday. But there does seem to be something with Garland and Herro, and I want to speculate on that a little bit. Did you have a problem with, and then we'll get into the numbers because I know you've gone into some of this as well, and it does play into how the Heat handle the series the rest of the way. Did you have a problem with Garland basically singling Tyler out there?
No, like you said, especially during a playoff series, like, it's cool to hear them kind of say the quiet part out loud. And it's not a surprise. Like, if you're watching these games, this is something that's happened with Tyler for years. Like, they pick on him, man. Like, they try to, get him to come and defend the pick and roll every single time. Like, we've seen this for years now. right? And I think even though he's gotten stronger this year, he kind of knows where to be on defense and all that stuff. It's still a problem. And I think in this last game, like you saw them not switch as much. They tried to show and recover a little bit more with Tyler, but then sometimes they would have abandoned it mid possession, and it was like, they would go away from something that would work, the first time around, and then for some reason would go away from it, right? And in the midst of the same possession, right? So I think if they would have stuck with it, things might have changed a little bit. But as far as like him being the target, that's not going to change. All that can change is how the Heat react to it or not. I don't think Tyler or any of the Heat guys are surprised that that's like the game plan, right? But him saying it out loud was definitely not something that like we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and that's the part that surprised me, which made me feel like it was somewhat personal. Because the first thing is like the game plan's obvious. Like it's not like Darius Garland was giving anything away. I mean, we've
It's funny
seen
coming from him though, huh? Like considering it's the same way the other way around, because they're targeting Darius Garland. Like, I promise you that. Maybe they should target him more.
And I want you to get to some of those numbers, but let me explain before we get to those numbers and why Darius Garland is probably it's like the right message on the wrong messenger, which I'm with you on that. I have a feeling that there's more to this. Why Garland would call him out? They were drafted the same year. Okay, they're both SEC guys, right? This is 2019, and Garland was 5th overall out of Vanderbilt, and of course Tyler was 13th overall out of Kentucky. They've been compared to each other a lot over the course of their relatively short careers. Garland has made 2 All-Star teams. Herro's made 1. They both made the All-Star team this year as reserves. If you look at their overall numbers through this point of their career, they're pretty similar, actually. I'm just going to give this to you because these line up almost the same. Garland has played 382 games. Tyler's played 361. This is regular season. So virtually the same, even with the criticisms of Tyler not playing enough. The points per game, Tyler's averaged 19.4 and Garland's averaged 18.9. The rebounds per game, Tyler's averaged 5 even. Garland's averaged 2.7. The assists, Tyler's averaged 4.0. Garland's averaged 6.7. And the shooting percentages, Garland's splits are 45, 38, 87. And Tyler's are 45, so the same. 38, so the same. 87. They literally have the same shooting splits, almost the same points per game. Tyler averages more rebounds. Garland averages more assists. You can make a case that they've been pretty equivalent players since they've come into the NBA. They've just gone into different situations. Garland's playing with an elite guard in the backcourt. I know you're rolling your eyes there, so I don't want you to answer this. But Garland's playing with an elite backcourt mate. Tyler is not. Okay, Tyler did have Jimmy. Okay, doesn't have him anymore. Who would you say before we go forward? Because you say, who has had a better NBA career so far?
I still think it's Garland, man. Like, for as much as Tyler has shown so much growth this season, like, and when you point out the stats like that, it does seem like maybe there wasn't a huge gap between them or anything like that. And I'm kind of with you there. But they're also such different players as far as what they do. Like, Garland is such a floor general, man. Like, even for as much as he can, take the pull-up 3, take the floater, get paint touches, like, he is such a great passer. And he's been that way from the start, right? Like, I think the position that Tyler is in right now is the position that Garland was in for the beginning of his career there before Donovan, joined the Cavs. So I feel like, and it's not just that, like, he came into the league as a better passer than Tyler, right? And then had to set up, his own team, a team that wasn't very good, that became one that was okay. And then with Donovan became a contender kind of overnight. And I think Tyler now is in this position where he is the floor general for the team. Sometimes, even though they're still using him off ball, but in general, like, there's kind of a gap there, or at least there was, playmaking wise. I think that shortened a little bit this season, but just in general, Garland is much more of a point guard than Herro. And there was a reason, like, he came in like a highly touted player in that draft. And for as much as Tyler has shown that growth, I think Garland has still had the better career.
Okay. And there will be some who'll say that. I'm going to poll this. I'm curious where Heat fans come down at it, because typically they would take the Heat player's side, but we know how polarizing Tyler can be with some in the fan base. So I think it's a worthy question, actually. But I don't think the difference is that large. I mean, I think regardless of who you say has been better, when you look at those numbers, I mean, they're literally the shooting splits are the same.
It's just if you're going to have a guy who gets targeted on defense, like, it's a little bit easier to stomach when the guy is also like, your main playmaker. Like, he's an awesome passer. And so even for all the growth that Tyler has shown there, that's not exactly his game. So I think it's easier to stomach with his build versus Tyler. But Tyler has obviously, kind of mitigated a lot of that with the stuff he's shown this season.
Okay, so now let me ask you this question on defense before we get into some of the numbers, because I said this may be the right message, although it's an odd message to send out there, but the wrong messenger.
Yeah.
How would you rank each of them defensively on a given day? Take into account effort, limitations, all of these kind of things. Is Darius Garland as a guard, is he better than a C defender?
No, I would say they're probably around the same level.
Okay. Where would you say Tyler is? Is it generous to give him a C? Off ball, I think he's a C. On ball, I think he's probably a little lower than that, right? Is that fair?
I guess just in general, C becomes a little tough because C kind of, I think, of average. And I think Herro and Garland are both below average defenders.
Okay.
Maybe C minus.
So, okay. But again,
we're
not talking. Okay, but this is my point here is that I don't have a problem with Garland doing this. It spices things up a little bit because there's really not a lot to kind of chew on this series. So
gives us stuff to talk about.
I'm fine with him saying it, and I like the fact that again, the players are honest about how they feel about others. And this I've never had really an issue with that. But then once they say it, then you evaluate the message and the messenger, right? Okay, so on the other side of this, I want to get into what the Heat have done against Darius Garland as a defender in this game, because I know you have some, and I know you also have some other numbers you want to get into related to Tyler. So we're going to do that in a second. Excuse me. Before we do, who did I say was the other sponsor of the show today? Did I actually tell you? Oh,
and now it's time for Who's on the Move, sponsored by our friends over at Cousins USA Moving and Storage, family owned and operated since 1996. They can service both residential and commercial moves, whether you're going across town, across the state, across country, and even across the globe. They have a 15,000 square foot private warehouse in Lauderhill, Broward County. The number one priority for Cousins Moving is transparency and being honest with their customers. They have a very low turnover, with most of their movers working for them for over 10 years. So find them online at Cousins Moving on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or visit the website at www.cousinsusa.com/5RSN. They've got an exclusive offer through 5RSN. You get 5 free wardrobe boxes with your next move, so there's no need to pack your clothes away in suitcases. Just mention 5 reasons. And now, who's on the move?
All right. Well, the Heat have been on the move offensively when they've gone against Darius Garland. So let me go through some of the numbers, and we appreciate some on Twitter who found these for us, including this one is Heat Muse, I believe. Well, I don't know if he's the biggest Tyler fan or not, but I found this stat earlier. Essentially, everybody ate against Garland this last game, which is why, again, this makes it kind of a weird thing for him to say. But let me call this up. He had the numbers here earlier. Hold on. Let me go. Okay, while being guarded by Darius Garland this postseason, since the 2 games, Alec Burks is 2 for 2. Haywood Highsmith is 2 for 2. Bam Adebayo is 2 for 2. Andrew Wiggins is 2 for 3. Tyler Herro is 2 for 4. Career defensive rating, which I know is flawed, and everybody has a different stat on it. It's based on the others that you play with and all of that stuff. So I get it. I understand it. But Tyler Herro has a better career defensive rating than Darius Garland. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there, not saying he's a better defender.
He was playing on bad teams to start his career, man. Whereas Tyler was playing for a team that ended up being a contender from day one.
I get it. Okay. 113.4, 114.9. But I will say this. Cleveland's been pretty good defensively this year, right?
Yeah.
Fair? Okay. They had the
They're
same
actually around the
rating.
same. Like the Heat and the Cavs finished around the same as far as defensive rating for the season. That, of course, doesn't include like all the Jimmy stuff. Like that's not even like post Jimmy. That's just for the season. Okay.
So they have the same defensive rating this year. Again, depends on a lot of other factors. But we're not talking about like Darius Garland is not Gary Payton. Okay. He's not Marcus Smart. Right. So it's just a weird thing for him to come with. All right. Now I know you have some numbers, so give me your numbers.
No, I mean, it's nothing out of this world. It's just funny, like you mentioned, the message is 100% valid. Like I mentioned before, that they're saying the quiet part out loud. Like this is what the NBA is now. Like when the best teams on the floor are trying to create advantages. And the simplest way to do that over and over is to take advantage of mismatches. So you're going to call up the guy that you want to pick on, and you're going to make them make a decision, whether it's to switch, whether it's to collapse, like you're going to be able to make the read out of that no matter what. And you just kind of, as a team, as a Heat defense, you're picking you're picking from your poisons, right? Like you're, instead of switching and helping, they're trying to hedge and recover. And it's like, hey, that's 100% what the strategy is, right? But at the end of the day, right, since I haven't said that in a while, at the end of the day, Garland is on the same position on the other end of the floor. Like they're both smaller, thinner guards, like who are both kind of similar in the sense that they both know where to be. It's not for a lack of effort, it's just that, because of their physical limitations, they're going to get taken advantage of. And Garland is even smaller than Herro. Like he's a little stockier than he was when he came into the league. He was really like thin when he came into the league. And actually, for like something I didn't say as far as when we were comparing their careers earlier in the show, is that Garland had a really rough rookie year. But again, also it's with the context of like, he was on a bad team and he was kind of forced to be that guy right away. But either way, it's just like they're in a very similar position now as far as being targeted on defense over and over. And the numbers are very similar as far as both teams' defensive ratings for the season are much, much better when those guys are off the court. Whether you look at Herro and Garland, I just looked it up right now, and it's just like, when they're off the floor, no surprise there. They're much better on defense. And I just think it goes to show both guys, like, even though me and other people might prefer a guy who can also play make at a really, really high level. They're both serving similar functions as far as being all offense, not much defense guys.
Let me throw this one at you. Let's have him change teams.
Oh.
Put Garland on the Heat and put Herro on Cleveland. Who gets better?
Oh, man. Why are you putting me in this position, man?
That's what I do. Who gets better?
Okay, you got to answer the question too after, because my immediate reaction is Garland makes the Heat better. The Heat, I think, and that's with Tyler being as good as he's been. Like, I'm really not trying to shade him here. He was awesome yesterday, like given, everything they need from him. I think the Heat would benefit from having a guy like Garland to set people up in the way that he does. Because, again, Tyler is a pretty good passer. I think Garland is just a tier higher there. I think it would do wonders for Bam and Ware. I think at times it would do wonders for Wiggins. I think Herro, is a shooting guard who has picked up, who has gotten better at some of the point guard abilities over the years with the responsibilities they've given him, because that's not something we ever expected from him when they drafted him, right? But, whereas Garland has been in this position the entire time and has always been a floor general, so there's just always going to be a different level there. And I think the Heat would immediately get better. I think that the Cavs, obviously their dynamic would change, because I think Donovan would become the primary ball handler more often than not, and maybe becomes more of a floor general. And Tyler all of a sudden is in more of an off-ball role again. So it's actually
right. Oh, you just went mute. But yes, that would be the thing here. But what's interesting to me about it is there was the whole perception that Garland and Mitchell couldn't play together, right? And to the point that Garland's represented by Clutch, and there were reports that came out that Clutch wanted him traded this offseason because it wasn't going to work. It has worked, and I give them both credit for making it work. I don't think Tyler and Donovan Mitchell would be a particularly good fit. Like, even as much as Garland was a tough fit with Mitchell, I think Herro would be a tougher fit with Mitchell. Am I wrong about that? That's the biggest reason I think it would make the Cavs worse. I don't think Garland's necessarily a better player than Tyler.
I think they could.
I think you make an argument they're the same player, just they go about it a little bit differently. But statistically, they've been about the same. I think they're in the same ballpark. I don't think Tyler would make Cleveland better the way they're constituted, whereas I do agree with you that having a guy like Garland, who is more of a traditional point guard, not a pure point, so to speak, but more traditional in that regard, would help the two bigs more than maybe Tyler does. That one I do agree with.
I do think that, like, if you're comparing the fit between, like, this is obviously not a thing that's going to happen, but if you were to have, like, Mitchell and Herro together, like you're saying, it's probably a tougher fit than with Garland, because, like I said, Garland is more of a natural point. Like, he can get Donovan Mitchell set up. He knows, like, when to set guys up, when to get out of the way, whereas Tyler, I feel like at that point, like, he like I mentioned, he wouldn't be replacing Garland because he's not the floor general that Garland is. Mitchell is, I think, a better passer just out of the amount of gravity, the amount of attention that he generates, right? As a scoring threat, because he's a ridiculous scorer. It's just going to draw two more often. than Tyler. So he becomes, I think, the floor general, even though you want to have Donovan come off the ball too. And I think they probably take turns in that way. So yeah, it's maybe not, it's a little bit of a tougher fit. But honestly, it just comes down. That's really the biggest difference between the two. It's just that, one is a good passer. The other is a great passer. And Garland, like, for as much as he can score the ball and has, averaged 24 or whatever in these 2 games, like, he's one of those guys, like, from the modern point guards, he's one of the guys who is closer to a balance of score first versus pass first. Because I would not categorize Garland as a score first point guard. You know what I mean? So, like, I think it's just a very different type of player. Like, it's one thing if it was like one of these modern day scoring point guards that are looking to score the ball first and are crazy, like, awesome scorers. Garland is a good scorer and I think a very good passer, who can obviously shoot the ball very well, hit the floaters. Like, I just think that it's the player builder.
Oh, you went mute again, but that's okay. I got the point. No, I am with you that Garland is more of a pure point. I don't think he's a pure point in the way that we've thought about it over the years, but compared to
he's no Mark Jackson.
Guys, Lamar Jackson or Mark Jackson? Which Jackson?
I said Mark Jackson.
Oh, Mark Jackson. I was going to say Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I've watched Mark Jackson play from St.
I said he's no Mark Jackson.
No, right, exactly. He's no Chris Paul. He's no Chris Paul. Like, that's when I think of pure point. He's that kind of player, but he's also not Westbrook. And he's also not some of the other guys that we've seen who are, primarily scorers first. I guess my overall thought on it is this, okay? I thought I'm fine with the comment because, again, it spices up the series. I don't have an issue with guys getting a little chippy about that kind of stuff. I do feel it may come from some place of competition between the two of them because of their histories being drafted the same year, both being SEC, both being all-stars in the Eastern Conference, etc. I can see some of that. I'm a little surprised he said the quiet part out loud, as you said. And I also think, again, it's the right message from the wrong messenger because he is not an elite defender himself. And as you said, the Heat have been going after him. And I honestly think that they're very comparable players, even if their styles are a little bit different. I think if you're to say this batch of guards in the Eastern Conference, Tyler and Garland are going to be in that same group. Now, you can say maybe Garland's a notch better if you want to make that argument, but they're in that same group. I don't think that we're not talking about like Cade Cunningham is someone who's elevating himself out of that group. Garland and Herro are in that same group. Both have made improvements. Garland did not have a good year last year. Tyler was injured a lot last year. They both rebounded this year. It's led to more wins in Cleveland because they got a better team there. But again, I was a little surprised that he just singled out that guy. I'm curious.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
It's so funny. I think it would be awesome if the Heat came out next game. Obviously, it would probably have to be after a win. I don't think they would say this after going down 3-0 and one of them saying, we went out, we attacked Darius Garland more, something like that. When asked about like the keys,
who would say that? More. Let me ask you that. Who would say that? Because I don't think the Heat have a player chipping in. Right, that's the only one, right?
Davion. I mean, I had another one in mind, but he's not on the team anymore.
I know that guy. But you know who would not say it? Bam would not say it.
Bam
would not say it. Bam's never going to say anything negative.
They actually do need to go at him more. Like this is not a Boston Celtics team that has 5 great defenders on the floor at all times. For as much of a good team defense, and they're really good at like help defense principles, right? And Mobley and Allen are really tough to deal with. Like for all that being said, like not trying to disrespect them, like that's something that you can actually point at and be like, okay. And you saw it for stretches there, like with Wiggins, like they would run stuff to get Garland. They would run the switch. Garland switched onto Wiggins. Like they need to do more of that stuff. And I know that, but like sometimes like you can't just do one thing all the time. But really, like the best teams in the world, that's what, like I mentioned earlier, that's what they're doing is they're picking on mismatches. Like we've seen it year after year with the Celtics. Like their offense is not necessarily the most like creative thing in the world. It's they're getting smaller guys these mismatches to get matched up on a Tatum and Brown. Like that we've seen it year after year, and then they're creating advantage off of that and just making the right read. They're just popping to the right guy and getting open threes. There's to a certain extent there's similar problems because they have so many guys you can't help off of, and that's why you hear Bam and others talk about guard your yard because they don't want to be having to help off of these awesome shooters. But it's like, man, Garland is right there. Ty Jerome is right there. Sam Merrill is right there. Donovan, for as stocky as he is not necessarily like an amazing defender either. Like I think they've got to find a way to like get Wiggins more mismatch, Bam more mismatch, like just in general, keep attacking those guys because, and honestly, they're gonna have to play 2 perfect games to be able to have a chance in this series. But again, it's just it comes back to Garland is really like the main target, just like Herro is for the Heat. So it's just funny.
Well, you mentioned they don't have a lot
and I'm
of
sure
great
he knows
defenders,
that.
No, I think so too, and I think it was pointed. Maybe he's been criticized behind the scenes as being a guy that the Heat were targeting, and so maybe it's coming out that way. But
and I forgot to say that Garland was also Herro was the primary matchup in the beginning of Game 1 on Garland, and I think that might have had something to do with it as well, or maybe he didn't see him quite as much in Game 2 with Davion starting, and he's like, we need to get back to that. Whereas Herro matched up on me. I miss when they had Herro matched up on me.
So it's more of a message to Spo and to Kenny Atkinson. It is because you mentioned Cleveland's team defense is pretty good, but when you're talking about guys to target, and we don't even get to Max because it just Max is physical. Okay, to a certain degree, he has limitations, but he's not a bad defender. We saw that in Miami. That it just tells you they don't have a ton of elite defenders. They play a really good defensive concept. Mobley's really good. Allen cleans up the boards. Donovan Mitchell can be okay when he's engaged. But you're right. Garland is the guy to target. So anyway, that's that. I know people are going to make a big deal of it. I can't see Andrew Wiggins after the game. Somebody as nice as Andrew saying, well, we decided to go after.
Definitely not Andrew Wiggins.
No. The Heat don't have that guy. They don't. This is where I miss Jimmy, actually. Jimmy would literally he called a timeout on Al Horford. Like he would absolutely go at it. The Heat too many nice guys on the Heat right now. Davion's a nice guy too, but he's the one I could see saying it. Because I think he's feeling himself a little bit right now, and he deserves to. Well, Tyler
might bite back. I don't know.
Tyler might bite back, and actually, I hope that he does. All right. Anyway, Alex, appreciate it. So we just had a little bit of fun with this. We'll have more episodes coming up before the game on Saturday, 1:00. Alex Brady and myself will be there. Greg will have the post-game show. Check out Off the Floor. Subscribe to Prize Picks. Support what we do so we can keep producing content for you. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.